So I was really hoping to hit a certain Goodreads number with my reading in December, but once the Romance Takeover Readathon ended, my reading kind of went psh. And I read some really polarising books this month, either books that I really loved or books that I really didn't like. It was an interesting reading month. Welcome to my December wrap-up. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel at least twice a week, and then movie reviews or book to movie videos here at the weekend. In the description box you will find all of my social links, including my blog and my Goodreads, and I will leave my Vlogmas playlist linked up above so that you can see perhaps why I didn't read as much as I thought I was going to in the month of December. I have 4 weeks of reading vlogs in there because yeah, it went a bit weird. However, a couple of the books that I'm going to talk about I loved so much that I made whole videos about them, so I will leave those linked up above for you as we get to them. As always, I will break my reading wrap up down into ebooks, audiobooks, physical books for you. Audiobooks always being the biggest proportion of my reading, because audiobooks are definitely still reading. I'm reading a book right now and I can tell you everything about it. I love it. And just because I'm listening to it doesn't mean I'm not reading it. So let's jump right in. I read Hopeful Hearts at Glendale Hall by Victoria Walters. I talked about this in my favourite festive reads of 2020 live video that I did with my mum. This one is the 3rd book in the Glendale Hall series and features character Heather, who we have met in the other 2 books, but we don't know an awful lot about. And I love being able to meet Heather. And I also love the fact that Heather struggles with anxiety and talks about her mental health in general a lot, whilst still being part of like the plot of the story. This book is not like, this is a book about mental health. This book is a lovely story with a character who happens to be very aware of her own mental health and struggles to deal with the anxiety that brings sometimes. And so I really, really loved that. This book was just so great, and I'm really glad that I waited until December to read it rather than reading it when it came out in autumn time. I want to say October. Then a book that I made a whole video talking about because I loved it so much. This is Confessions of a 40-something Fuck Up by Alexandra Potter. I did find out that actually the US release of this one is just called Confessions of a 40-something. There is no F word in the title, which is interesting. But I really loved this book and really identified with so many parts of it, even though I am not yet quite a 40-something. But I made a whole review talking about this book, so I will leave it linked up above and you can see exactly why I really enjoyed reading this book. Then another ebook that I read. This is a YA thriller and focuses on the theme of thrillers of the year, which is like social media and influencers. This is Influence by Sara Shepherd and Lila Buckingham, and this one features some influencers who live all together in a building in LA, which I've heard is a very common thing for younger influencers to all live either in the same house or in the same building, and this is where these kind of like influencer parties have been going on during lockdown when they shouldn't have been, and so it was interesting having that in the book that I was reading. As much as this is kind of branded as a thriller, it wasn't particularly thrilling. It was all right, but I didn't find myself terribly like driven to keep reading the book. I thought that the characters were interesting because they were all sort of influencers and all socialized in the same circles, and obviously had, you know, similar followings and were in and out of each other's videos and TikToks and what have you. But yeah, there wasn't an awful lot kind of terribly driving me. And then when we got to kind of like the reveal of like, you know, the kind of who done it, what happened in the end here, it was just kind of like one ridiculous theory after another after another. I haven't written my like actual review of this yet, even though I really need to post it on my blog, because this book is out on the 5th of January, so by the time you're watching this, it'll already be out. But I'm kind of struggling to put into words why I didn't necessarily love this book, even though I finished it. It's kind of like a very sort of middle of the road. It's not doing anything spectacular. I wanted more and I expected more. I think that's the problem. I have not read any of Pretty Little Liars or seen the show or anything like that, so I don't know that this is probably maybe the tone that Sarah Shepherd always uses, but I was interested in the subject matter, and it seems to be like the kind of subject matter for releases for thrillers that are coming out sometime soon, because I have another book that kind of deals with a very similar topic to talk to you about. Then another ebook that I read in the month of December was a lovely novella, and this one was Booked for Christmas by Lily Menon, and I do read this in one of my romance takeover reading vlogs. This one is, enemies snowed in together, but they happen to both be writers, and so there's just kind of so many elements about this little novella that I enjoyed. It was just sweet and lovely, and as I say, I talk about it in much more detail as I'm reading it in that video, so I will leave it linked up above. Then on to some physical books. Exciting. I read, finally, I feel like I've been kind of going, I want to read this. Finally read I Hope You Stay by Courtney Peppernell, and this is the first book that I've read by her outside of her Pillow Thoughts series. Pillow Thoughts 4 just came out recently, and so I read that, and I already had this one on my shelf, but it is the most beautiful book, and I love the fact that it's an otter on the front cover there. Of course, I have tabbed it up quite liberally. I think this is one of the illustrations that I tabbed here. I love this one. So this one is divided into sections, just like her Pillow Thoughts books, and they are You Will Ache, You Will Dream, You Will Love, You Will Heal, and You Will Rise. And I found the aching and the dreaming part really quite sort of sad, because they deal with, a breakup and being lonely and just, all of that. And so I did find the first couple of sections quite sad, but then the You Will Love and You Will Heal and You Will Rise were just like, I really, really enjoyed those sections. So it was kind of worth going through the sort of pain of the beginning to get to the nicer section. But if you haven't read Courtney Peppernell before, I do have a whole video talking about her Pillow Thought series, and I really, really recommend this one, even though it is definitely more on the kind of more like somber, introspective side. I mean, Pillow Thoughts is very introspective as well, but it reads a lot more like Pillow Thoughts 4 than like Pillow Thoughts 1 and 2. So if you know Courtney Peppernell, I hope that helps. Then another physical book that I read that also deals with an online influencer and is a thriller. This one is People Like Her by Ellery, which comes out in the US on the 12th of January and in the UK on the 21st of January. I think I've got that right, but it might be the 12th and the 14th. But yes, this one is followed by millions, watched by one. A mummy influencer. We have 3 different perspectives in this book. One is the mummy herself. I cannot remember her name now. I can't keep wanting to say Ellery, but it's not that. And then we have Dan, her husband, and we have parts told from his point of view. And then we have this mysterious kind of online stalker who we know is going to do something bad, but we don't know who they are, why they want to do it, or what they're going to do. And I found this one really, really compelling. And it's the first thriller that I read as physical form in a little while. And I really do like reading that genre as a physical form, because it means you can kind of keep turning pages and you can kind of flick back to look at details and be like, was I right about this? I was not right about it. I couldn't guess what was going on. And that was quite interesting. And I really have to... Emmy, that's what she's called. That's why I wanted to call her Ellery, because it's quite similar. So I don't know how much of this is biographical, who knows, but this is a debut, so I'm excited about the fact that I enjoyed it so much. And this was one of my book of the month picks for December, so you're getting a little sneak peek into my upcoming book haul, because I have a few new books that I'm going to share with you. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on that. Then on to audiobooks. First of all, let's talk about This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousens, because I do have a physical copy of it. And this one I made a whole video talking about because I did it as a buddy read with my lovely friend Hayley. And so we did a buddy review live for you here on the channel. So I will leave that linked up above so you can see just why this was also a really favourite book of mine, and made it onto my top 10 adult books of the year because it was wonderful and amazing. And for once I like the US cover so much more than the UK cover. The UK cover did not make me pick up this book. The US cover made me buy this book. It's just beautiful, and I feel like I've shown it off in this way in every single video where I've talked about it, but it is stunning, so I have every reason to. Then moving on to some of the other audiobooks that I listened to. Let's find them. I listened to Crazy Stupid Bromance, which is the third book in the Undercover Bromance series, featuring these guys in a book club and the other people in their lives. I think that I enjoyed this most out of all three of the books that I've read in the series so far, so that's saying something. And I love the fact that there is a cat cafe in this one that is called... Is it just called toe beans? It's called something to do with beans, because obviously the beans for the coffee and the beans for the little cat's toe beans. And I just, it endeared me to the characters, and it endeared me to the book so much, the name of this cat cafe. It's ridiculous how like invested I got in because I liked the name of the cat cafe. I just thought it was very like inventive. Then a couple that didn't gel with me so much. These were on my kind of like vintage NetGalley shelf, and were thrillers, and I had audiobooks of them, and so I was like, I must finally get around to listening to these. I listened to The House Swap by Rebecca Fleet when I was back in the UK in 2018. I went to an event with her in Waterstones in London, and I loved the sound of it, and so I bought this audiobook then, and I had it from NetGalley as well. I don't have a physical copy of it, but I have the ebook and the audiobook, and I finally got around to reading it, and it was like, it just didn't blow me away the way I thought it would. Also, I had started listening to the audiobook of this one when I first got it, and between then and now I restarted it, and they've changed the narrators, which I think is very interesting. The narrator initially in the first time I picked this one up, this sort of bad character, you know, the character we've got to watch out for, had this kind of like breathy, stalkery voice, and I don't know if people found that too creepy or too difficult to listen to, but they changed that, and I don't know, maybe that's why it didn't seem as kind of thrillery and scary to me, perhaps. And then another one sort of in the like same category, something that I'd had on my NetGalley shelf for a while, a thriller that a lot of people rave about. This one is Unravelling Oliver by Liz Nugent. She knew everything but the truth. And I thought it was interesting finding out about Oliver as we went through the book, and the kind of different personas he was to different people, including in his personal and professional life. But again, I didn't really find myself kind of caring what went on, and, you know, how he was unraveled, and how he was evil, and who was evil, and how he was affected. And I had high hopes for both of these thrillers, and then I kind of eventually got around to picking them up, and I was like, oh, these are a little bit disappointing. It just may be a sign of the fact that thrillers 2-3 years ago are not doing the same kind of thing as thrillers now, or perhaps that I've kind of found thriller writers that I really enjoy and these were not them. I don't know. Then moving on to a couple that I did like, since we've had a couple that I didn't like. I listened to The Flight Attendant by Chris Bohjalian, and I did this one for a book versus movie, so I will leave that video link so you can see my full thoughts. There are quite a few differences between this and the HBO series. I did enjoy this book. I did find it quite thrilling and quite chilling. Definitely enjoyed it more than The House Swap and Unravelling Oliver, but probably not as much as people like her. I don't know why there are so many thrillers on my TBR for December, but It's the Way We're Going, and I did enjoy that one. Then I listened to Well Played by Jen Deluca, which is the second book from her. The first one was Well Met. I love the Renaissance fair setting of these ones. I like the romance. I like the fact that our heroine, our main character, is plus size and talks about that, and talks about the difficulty in finding Renaissance fair costumes and like just generally nice and interesting clothing when you are not you know, a sort of off the rack size in every store. So I did enjoy listening to that one. I listened to that as part of the Romance Takeover readathon. Then a couple of books that I actually didn't finish. I listened to The Shadows by Alex North. This was supposed to be a thriller as well, and it's the follow-up to The Whisper Man. And I feel like, having put this one down, I really can't tell you anything about it. It just wasn't like drawing me in at all. It wasn't compelling me to keep listening. I got about halfway and then I was like, nope, this book is not for me. I do not want to spend time listening to that. And then one that I didn't DNF. I got to the end of it, but I didn't listen to all of it. I picked and chose the chapters that I went to, because this one is Shit Actually by Lindy West. This is the definitive 100% objective guide to modern cinema. I think that tagline is tongue-in-cheek. So basically, this one talks about why no films are as good as The Fugitive and why The Fugitive is the perfect movie, and then compares films and talks about why they're bad. So it basically does kind of like just take a film and completely rip it apart. And normally I really enjoy what Lindy West is saying. I loved Shrill. I loved The Witches Are Coming, but I just couldn't get along with this one, even though it's read by her. I just thought that some of what she was saying about the films was very narrow-minded. And so, you know, you can take a film and completely criticize it. You know, I don't like the same films as everybody else, but when you are kind of saying things that are just based on your sort of very limited view of the world, I mean, I know, you know, it's tongue-in-cheek about it being objective, but like a lot of the things that she was saying was wrong with Love Actually. The comedy that she was criticizing was very like British comedy and not American humor, and I think that's where you differ. And a couple of things she was saying was like, well, that would never happen, is quite common in the culture of the area that the film is set. And so I did pick and choose which ones I listened to, because there were some films I'd never seen and would never intend on seeing, and so I just sort of went with the ones that I actually had seen myself, whether I'd enjoyed them or not. So I didn't DNF it, but I didn't listen to every single essay in the book, but I really didn't rate the book either way, so make of that what you will. Is it a DNF? Is it not? It's a book I didn't like. I wouldn't recommend it. A book I would recommend that is also read by the author is I Want to Be Where the Normal People Are by Rachel Bloom. This one made me realise that I started watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend when it first came onto Netflix in 2016 and then never watched any more of it. So I need to go and watch this series because I was really interested in what Rachel Bloom had to say. I was really interested in her kind of like where she came from to get to that Netflix deal, and the way she writes and the way she puts things into it, and then sort of the where she is now as well. And I was laughing out loud at multiple points reading this book. I think I have a bit in one of my reading vlogs where I'm in the gym and I'm just like, I'm glad there's no one else in here because I am laughing really loudly at all of this. So really recommend that one. Do it on audio if you can, because she reads it and kind of goes through things in a very like deadpan delivery. There's also some singing on the audiobook as well, so if you're listening on double speed you might have to slow it down because otherwise it sounds very weird. Then as part of the Romance Takeover readathon, I read In a Holidaze by Christina Lauren, which is like a Groundhog Day type of Christmas. Apparently this one isn't as steamy as Christina Lauren's like previous books. Their previous books are apparently a little steamier, so I am interested in picking up their previous books because this is my first Christina Lauren. Can you believe it? So I have The Unhoneymooners as a big like recommendation from a lot of people, but if you are a Christina Lauren fan and you think that I should go back into their writing with another book, let me know. I'm open to suggestion. I enjoyed the audiobook of this one though, so I would go into the audiobook. I think but the romances in it was like will they, won't they. It was just nice. It was a nice read. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. Wasn't something that I'll be, you know, making a whole video about or saying, oh, you must read this next. But it was nice, and it was nice for reading at that time of year as well. I'm glad I saved some Christmas books for reading in December. Just some. And then my final listen of 2020 and my final listen of December was No One Asked for This, essays by Cazzie David. Cazzie David is Larry David's daughter, and famously was in a relationship with Pete Davidson before he got together with Ariana Grande for that. And so I was interested to hear what she had to say. It kind of came out the blue and I was like, oh yeah, we'll pick this up, and I did the audio so she reads it. It's not the most uplifting of reads. She talks about sort of her anxiety and her OCD quite a lot and is very open and honest about that, which I really appreciated, but is very sort of negative about a lot of things, which, you know, I get where she's coming from. But if you are looking for an uplifting read, this one isn't for you. But if you are looking for an honest read and something that kind of honestly portrays anxiety and OCD, then 100% this is for you. And like I say, she reads it. The audiobook was great. I don't know what the physical book would be like because I haven't seen that one at all. I just came across it as an audio copy. I asked my library to order it. They did, and they borrowed it for me. So there you go. What more can you ask for? Okay, so didn't read quite everything I was planning on reading in December. Did not hit my Goodreads goal. Well, I mean, I did hit my Goodreads goal, but my like secret Goodreads goal of getting to 300 books, I could have made it happen, but then there was Christmas films to watch and other things. If you've seen the vlog, you'll have seen what I was doing instead of reading. It's okay. I ended up reading a lot of books this year anyway, and yeah, there was a lot of books that I just didn't like in the month of December, which is a shame given that it was the final reading month of the year. But then I had some favorites as well, and some that I made whole videos about, so that's okay. Let me know, did you have a good reading December? Did you have like a very polarizing range of books just like me, or were they all firm favorites? Did you save some Christmas reads for December? Let me know in comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I will be back with more bookish content for you on Friday, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on that. Hit that notification bell because I will be bringing you movie review content at the weekend as well. I think that's all there is to say. Thank you so much for watching.